Hey guys, we're hanging out in Fullerton, Southern California. I'm actually with my buddy Sam from the Electric Bicycle Center. How's it going, bud?
Good, good.
You know, this is really an interesting bike that we're looking at here. This is the Motiv Werks. It's got a really interesting backstory because you've been carrying the Spark and the Sleek and a lot of the Motiv models for quite a while, and you guys were modifying. In fact, I think Kenny at your shop, great guy, he's modifying the bikes. And
we modified one for him, and he wanted everything on it. He wanted the hydraulic brakes, he wanted a nicer seat post, he wanted, you know, we put Maxxis hookworm, big fat tires on it, and Cameron started looking in the suspension front end on it. And yeah. Cameron, the guy that runs Motiv, was looking at it and goes, hey, maybe we should start bringing that in.
Yeah.
And the next thing I know, we go over there and they're calling it the Works bike, and I'm like, Kenny's like, where's my royalty?
That's hilarious. Thank you for the, you know, that's so cool. I mean, that's the neat thing about Sam's shop. I love all the different shops I get to go to, but, you know, he focuses on local brands. Cameron's down in, like, San Diego area, or?
Fountain Valley, locally here in Orange County.
He's in Fountain Valley. Yeah. Okay, yeah, I've been to his warehouse and stuff. The point being, like, this is, like, the Electric Bike Center customized, you know, Spark, and then what I'm focusing on here is the Werks. This is the one that came from Motiv. It's almost completely stock, except for this rear rack. That's something Sam added, and I decided to leave it on for this review because there's some other accessories and stuff that are fun to talk about. The Werks, right? He spells it W-E-R-K-S, which is cool, but really what we're talking about here is the addition of that suspension fork, 100mm travel. This is a spring fork, so it's not quite as light or adjustable as air, but you know, it blends in, it matches, keeps the price down a little bit. It does have a compression adjust, lockout, and we've got preload over there. So if you're a heavier rider like Sam over there, he's a couple 100 pounds, maybe preloading that spring so that, you know, it's not bottoming out and you're getting that travel. That's a good idea. And then we've got the Promax. This is just kind of basic, maybe 40mm travel suspension seat post, 27.2mm diameter on that. You know, there's also like a preload on the bottom of this thing. You can kind of tighten it and dial it in for your weight. We've got the big comfy saddle. This is actually a Velo saddle, Motiv branded. We've got the padded faux leather stitched grips, a big steel bar swept back. Steel has some vibration dampening qualities. Quill stem, so the stem actually goes up and down a little bit. And then sort of an older, you know, this is, I believe, 1 1/8", but it's like threaded external cups versus being internal. And, you know, 25.4mm on the clamp diameter on the stem. Okay, so it's a little bit different than like mountain biking, where it's like 31.8mm. And I've recorded that and all the other specs, stand over height, length, width, and everything back at the site. But I'm calling it out because it's using more of those cruiser parts. I love that we've got a foot bell up here for safety, that it has an integrated headlight, although the headlight is mounted to the suspension arch, so as that travels up and down, the light beam is going to kind of bounce around versus if it was mounted up here. But that keeps the handlebars a little less cluttered, and you can see the wire wrap. They've done as best as they could, but there are a lot of extra wires here, and you're probably thinking, like, why? And that's because we've got a twist throttle, we've got the LCD display, in addition to a remote button pad that's easy to reach. You've also got motor inhibitors on both brake levers. So these are hydraulic Tektro levers. They've got adjustable reach, so if you're someone with like smaller hands or maybe you're wearing gloves or something, you can bring them in a little bit. Really easy to actuate, even the rear brake. A lot of times on mechanical brakes, which we've got over here, these are the Tektro, you know, still disc, but mechanical. Sometimes when you're pulling the right one, in America, that's for the rear brake, you know, the cable has to go all the way back here, and it's just a little bit more effort. I do like, though, that on the Sleek and the Spark, they've got the rubberized edge, they've got the integrated bell. That's why they had to have an external bell over here. So you can see like the evolution and why they made some of these decisions. But coming back to the colors, look at these beautiful paint-matched steel fenders. They don't rattle as much, and maybe aluminum, they're tougher. They're definitely quieter than plastic. They add a little bit of weight, and then the steel, if it gets scratched, you know, there could be a little bit of rust. So keep an eye on that, maybe touch it up if you notice that they get scratched. There's a lot of trade-offs in materials. They also used to have like a chain cover, and you can see the little mounting point here, but they've gone to a plastic guide instead, and that's nice because it keeps the chain on track. It won't bounce off quite as easily. 170mm crank arms, Welgo aluminum alloy platform pedals with fixed pins. I love these because let's say it is raining and you've got those fenders in place. You don't want to slip off the pedals, and if you're someone who's a little bit bigger, you know, those pins and that platform area just feels solid. This bike feels really nice. It's an aluminum alloy frame. It's got this kind of sweeping design, almost like cantilever, and it feels pretty rigid. in part because this doesn't have a rear rack battery. It's got the like seat tube, behind the seat tube mounted pack. 48 volts, 16 amp hours on that battery. That's pretty big. It's lithium ion. It weighs 9.9 pounds. So bringing that weight as close to the center and low as possible as you can, that's what you want to do for handling. And then the controller box down here. And it's got a pretty, sizable controller to handle the 48 volt output and just the higher amperage that's flowing through to this Dapu 700 watt nominal, probably over 1,000 peak. This thing it's very capable. We've been coming up this hill over here and we're going to do some more rides, but I had no problem going up the hill. Sam's over there on the Spark and, again, weighing a little bit more than me. The motor's able to take us both up, even just using the throttle. Really satisfying, but that gets us into this sort of class discussion. This bike, it can go to like 26 miles per hour just using the throttle, which means it's not really class 2 because that cuts off at 20. And it's not class 3 because that's pedal assist up to 28 miles per hour. So this one's kind of unlocked. It's class 4. Ideally it'd be private property, or you disable the throttle for use on roads and stuff, or you register it like a moped or something. It's an interesting topic because a lot of the people who get this, the Motiv bikes and stuff, maybe you weigh a little bit more, you've got the cargo, you want the extra power, but the speed thing comes into question. It really depends on where you're at. I just want to be clear about that this is a powerful and fast bike. So I love that they've upgraded some of the other features, including the tires. Schwalbe Balloon, Big Apple. These are 26 by 2.15. They're not quite as fat as some of the Kenda tires on the older, or I guess downgraded Motiv models. Those ones, they've got this like tread, gives you a little bit of on-road, off-road, whereas this is definitely more of an on-road tread pattern. It's got the reflective sidewalls. Love that, especially for a black bike, and it does only come in one size and black right now. And then he's got this cute little solar-powered, rear light, and if you press the button here, it kind of goes into flashing modes. Keeps it self-charged. I haven't used one of these long enough to comment on the durability, but it's a nice feature, and it's probably a little bit more reliable and durable than if they had an integrated rear light. And remember, it doesn't come with the rack, so they'd have to mount that to the fender and run the wire underneath. And I guess what I'm saying is I can see why Cameron's only focusing on the headlight right now. And again, Cameron's the founder of Motiv, so that's who I'm referencing. The tires also have puncture protection, which is really nice, Performance Line Race Guard. So, with a bike like this, it's a little bit heavier and more powerful, and maybe you're a heavier rider or you've got the bag. You want to make sure the tire pressure's up so that you get efficiency, but also you don't have pinch flats and stuff if you're going off curbs. We've got these nice, thick 12-gauge spokes, front and rear, black. They match the hubs, they match the rims. It's all about style here, but again, if you get a flat tire, the front has quick release. The rear, you're going to be kind of messing with this 12mm axle, and you can see the power cable coming out. You've got the shifter cable. There's just more to deal with when you have a hub motor powered bike versus like a mid-drive. But the hub motor gives you the throttle, it gives you the power on demand. It's definitely satisfying. We're going to see that a little bit later. They do have a quick disconnect here. It's just try not to get a flat tire on the rear, and that's where those upgraded tires come in. Okay, so coming to the other side, we can see the 180mm Tektro rotors with the dual piston calipers. Not bad, good stopping power. 180, that's what you see on like electric mountain bikes a lot of the times. And then what I would consider to be kind of like a cheap kickstand, because it just doesn't, it's not like mounted to the frame, it's sort of bolted on, but it actually works pretty well, and it's adjustable length, and it stays out of the way of the pedal. So I shouldn't complain too much. It's actually a decent part. It's just, it feels more added on. It's not quite as like beautiful looking as like the mountain bike, semi-mountain bikes where they have it, little dropout piece here and connects to that. This is the other side of the battery pack. We've got the charging port, we've got a little handle built in. Easy to take on and off, except for the saddle. There's no flip up function, so you actually have to use quick release, pull the saddle out, and then lift the battery up. The other thing is, I like that the charging port is above this tube and not near the pedals, because if those pedals go by, they could snag and like bend or break that. So the positioning of that is good. The key also not going to get bumped as easily right here, but you have to leave it in when you're riding. So imagine you have a keychain right here and it's rattling and kind of jingling, or maybe your leg is here and you just don't want to get it snagged. I wish you could pull the key out when you're riding, but on the other hand, when you do lock it and pull the key out, now no one can really mess with the bike. They can't tamper with the throttle or the display or anything because it's not turned on. So it's more like a car in that sense, and it's a little bit more secure that way. As far as battery care, keeping it in a cool, dry location, trying to keep this thing from going too low. When you get below 20%, I think it causes a chemistry change in lithium ion cells. So it's a good idea to just care for this thing. Charge it up every once in a while if you haven't used it. They do sell replacement packs, and this is a fairly standard design. I think it's called the Silverfish in the industry, even though this one's painted black to match the frame. And then up front, 180 millimeter disc brake rotor there as well. And just, yeah, just a nice, that's a nice quick tour on the bike. I wanted to show you the charger, which is in this Toe Peak bag. Sam, can you help me with the bag? We can mount that up. So tell me about this rack, and with it, you know, what's the deal?
It's a popular upgrade that a lot of shops sell, and it's got a rail system here, so you're not dealing with any bungee cords or Velcro straps or anything like that. You just line the rail up on the back, and once you have it lined up, you're on.
I like that, and it clicks. It's easy to get off. Is this the pannier one?
Yeah, so this is a deluxe model with the built-in panniers, and they've got lots of storage area, and there's one on either side.
Wow.
Very cavernous, lots of room. Again, really sanitary, and you've got your little here, and you just hook it down there and pull it tight.
Oh, that's what that, okay, great, yeah.
And what that'll do is it'll keep it from flopping around when you're riding.
Thank you. It's neat to, you know, we're looking at different accessories, and Sam sells that at the shop. Maybe this was getting set up for a customer with the rack and stuff.
Yep.
That's a pretty popular upgrade for you guys?
It's one of the most popular. I think a lot of shops sell that. That's a popular upgrade.
Okay, well, cool. Yeah, it looks nice. And inside, voila, we have the charger. I'm just gonna open this box real quick and show you what this looks like. This is a big upgrade compared to what I've seen on some of the older Motiv models. It puts out 2.5 amps versus just 2, and it only weighs like 1.4 pounds, and it's got this nice, easy to use connector point, and the wall side disconnects, so it's smaller, it's compact, it easily fits into that storage bag. And then I think there was something else in this bag too. Yeah, here, do you want to pull that out?
It's just an upgraded seat post that you can put on, but I mean, there's a lot of options there. You can go with a body float, you could go with a thud buster, and this is the newest version that we picked up. Actually, we're getting these through Elex.
Interesting.
And we just ordered up like 40 of these, so we had to put in a pre-order from China to get them, and that cost a few $1,000s to get that many of them. But this one's about half the price of what you'd pay for like a body float, and it works really well.
Okay, well, and that's a step up from, like, you know, the limited travel, and good, nice to have that, better than just like a rigid post, but maybe a little bit more vulnerable. Sometimes I've noticed if you pick the bike up by the saddle or twist, the Promax isn't quite as sturdy as the SR Suntour NCX. Thank you for that quick overview, Sam. If we're coming over to what Sam's shop has done, you know, one of the upgrades they did was the suspension fork, and they went with the RockShox Paragon. Cleaner. I think this is an air fork, so it's a little bit lighter weight, more limited travel, but it does have the lockout compression adjust. It's just a sleeker fork. Look at that compared to, you know, this one, and maybe that comes back to pricing. Okay, so $29.95 for the Motiv Werks here. I don't know if it's similar price or how much you charge for the Paragon over there.
It's a similar price point.
Similar price. Okay, well, great. Yeah, this is really, and again, paint match fenders. So right now the Werks only comes in black, but I imagine at some point Cameron might be opening it up. And gosh, I feel like we've covered most of the bike here. Sam, do you feel like I missed anything? Or you have anything else to share?
No, you got it really well. A lot of the bike shops that sell Motiv, if you're in SoCal and you're on the beach, you're going to see Pedagos, you're going to see Elexes, and you're going to see Motivs.
Yeah.
A few other ones are out there, but those are probably the three most common ones you'll see down at the beach. And if you go down to the beach, you'll stop into a shop called Fresh. They're in Huntington, and his sales pitch is just go ride it.
Yeah, of
just
course.
ride it. And if you ride, that's what you need to do, is ride some different variations and see what fits you. What do you like? What feels good for you?
Yeah.
And a lot of people will come in and they bought a bike, and maybe that'll be their second bike because they weren't aware of it yet. You know, there's maybe not as many dealers selling this brand, but this is our #1 selling beach cruiser in our shop.
That's awesome to hear, man.
Yeah.
And Cameron gives like a year-long comprehensive warranty,
Yeah.
and you give good shop support.
He's a great guy. One other thing I want to mention is he designed the bike right here in Southern California. So this isn't a brand where they went to China and they're just like, you know, hey, that looks good, let's just rebrand it and tweak a couple things. He actually, the frame was designed by him.
Nice.
And that's unique. No one else has that frame. No one else has this design except for Motiv.
It looks great, yeah. And it's interesting because it's stayed pretty consistent over the years, but you know, it is purpose built. You can see that some of the cables are routed through the frame so they don't get in the way as much. You know, it's a style thing, and I think part of the reason he doesn't include a rack is because without the rack, this bike looks just even cleaner. I mean, again, it would look something like that. It's nice to get to look at these bikes back to back and then think about like what the hydraulic disc brake upgrade means, or you know, whether you want to have the fork kind of set up with the bike. I also noticed that yours has this adjustable angle stem over here versus the quill stem rigid. This can sometimes be a little bit sturdier. But do you want to maybe hop on this thing, and it's fun to see third person.
Yeah, so one more thing I want to point out is we were the ones that started putting the larger sprockets on the front too. These actually came off of his stout folding bike. And when you're doing 20 plus miles an hour with the stock gear ratio and the chain guard on there, you're just spinning yourself out like the hamster trying to keep up with the bike. And at that point, you wear yourself out within 10 minutes. You're just spinning away. With this, it slows your cadence down. So when you're at 20 plus miles an hour, you got a relaxed cadence, and you can make it from, you know, I'm 25 miles to the beach, and I can go 25 miles with that nice relaxed cadence, and I'm not all worn out.
Yeah.
Normally I ride to the beach, and I'm looking for the jacuzzi. On this bike, let's go over to Fred's down on Main Street in Huntington, have some Mexican food. I'm not completely spent by the time I get there.
Yeah, so it's a slower. I like. That's a great point, Sam. And the range on the cassette was 11 to 32. So, you know, that lower sprocket, if this was a mountain bike and you were trying to go up really steep stuff, you might struggle. But with the higher powered motor and those efficient tires and stuff, it's geared to pedal smoother when you're at a higher speed.
It just makes a better connect with the bike, you know? You've got better, it's a more intuitive feel rather than spinning yourself out.
Okay, well, yeah, you take that one. I'll take this one, but let me get you a helmet over here. Here it is, buddy.
Thanks.
And we got the bag all zipped up. Yeah, we're all good. So I'm gonna hop on this one so we make sure that the keys are to the on position. Both of the displays are the same, so I'm gonna walk through on the Spark here. Hold the mode button. We've got it looks like 4 ticks, but actually the outer perimeter of the battery infographic is a tick too, so it's 5 ticks. Remember, try to stay above 20% if you can. Then we got a clock over here. Assist levels, it starts in 1, and you can arrow down to 0. The throttle is still active. Okay, so then it just becomes like a little scooter. If you hold the up and mode button together, that activates the headlight, and I'm surprised I didn't see the infographic switching on, but it does work. Then we have speed in the middle here. It's in miles per hour right now. Odometer at the bottom. If you press the mode button, it just cycles through. So odometer went to trip and back to odometer. And then up there we have max speed and average speed. Some other readouts. You hold the down arrow for a second. That's going to activate walk mode. Whoa, boy. And that's kind of nice for what ends up being a heavier bike. That one's like 60.8 pounds. But remember, it has the rack. So maybe it's like 58, 59 pounds. And we did weigh it without the bag, so we're trying to be as close as possible. Again, 9.8 pounds on the battery. You could take that off if you're going to load this into your car or try to carry it upstairs or something like that. And then you can get into the settings by holding the up and down arrow keys together, and then cycle through, set the clock here if you want to, set the top speed. Go down here, you can change the wheel size, and then you can change the levels of assist, so 3 or 5. And then you can change from kilometers to miles if you want to. And then just hold the mode button for a few seconds to get back out. So I mentioned that you could change the top speed on this. That might be a good thing if you want to ride this at the 20 miles per hour or even less. Some people, maybe it feels more comfortable to go slower. The bikes use a cadence sensor that's sealed, and it's right there between the chain ring and the actual tube, the bottom bracket tube. It's just really compact and clean compared to a lot of the older ones. They were bigger and they had like magnets and they would get bumped out of position, but it's more of an on-off feeling. Whereas the throttle, it's variable speed, but this is a twist throttle. So let's pretend you powered on the bike like I did and you haven't hopped on yet, and then you grab this for security and you accidentally bump the throttle. The bike can take off on you, and it's a powerful motor. So just keep that in mind. At all levels, you have full power of assist with the throttle. That's nice. It's just, you know, there's bigger responsibility there, I think. Why don't you lead on, Sam, and we can... No problem climbing the hill. Fairly smooth. I think he's using the... Yeah. So Sam's coming up here. I'm gonna do a little brake test. Nice, and you can see it dive a little bit, you know, with the heavier weight shifting forward, but the brakes, they worked great. They're giving you plenty of stopping power. So Sam's gonna use the brakes to go down the trail, and then we'll see if he can make it back up. This is definitely not what the bike is. Make it up this dirt incline. Not bad. Yeah, pretty powerful. Will you just do an acceleration like right here, full throttle power? Oh yeah, pretty zippy. You know, I'm not used to seeing you move around that quick.
Well, I have lost some weight, Cart.
Nice. Are you riding bikes, huh?
Yeah, a little bit of everything.
Okay guys, from here you can see the 52 tooth sprocket. Love that it has a chain guide so it's not gonna bounce off, because the bike is pretty powerful, gets going pretty quickly, and with the suspension fork up front and the seat post suspension, it's a little bit more comfortable to go over some of the bumpy terrain, and again, the chain can just bounce around a little bit. It'd be nice if it had a sticker slap guard there, and I see there's actually a mounting point for like a chain cover, but I'm not sure if he's doing that anymore because there's the guide up front. That protects your pants too. 11 to 32 teeth, 10 speeds in the rear, the SLX shifter's working really well, and then that sealed cadence sensor. Just nice how clean it looks now. It just blends right in, and it's pretty responsive. So I'm going to start off in the highest level of assist, 5, just to show you how quickly the motor starts and stops, and then do a little bit of throttle. So it's interesting, it gets you right up to 26 miles per hour, and then it sort of fades out. I noticed when I was pedaling, and I had a pretty comfortable cadence. 26 feels pretty good, you know, it's like a speed pedelec setup, but the throttle also goes to 26, so that's kind of questionable. It's something you might want to adjust. Otherwise, this is sort of class 4, doesn't really fit into speed pedelec or class 2 throttle only, so it's a more powerful motor for sure. So from here you can see the cranks. Love the pedals, give me good traction, good power transfer. I just wanted to give you an idea of how fast it feels. Sounds like the fenders are a little bit loose on this one here. Something to keep an eye on.
It's not done yet.
Was this being worked on yesterday?
I was down on that street looking up this way, and it looked beautiful.
Awesome. Nice. Interesting, there's like parkour going on.
Everything.
This is sweet, this is awesome. Well, you guys, I've tried to go deep. It's awesome to get help from, you know, a local shop that knows the founder of Motiv. That's Cameron. Again, thank you, Sam,
You got it.
for all your help and all the tips on accessories and stuff. For the full written review on this, I'll see you back at ElectricBikeReview.com. Have fun out there, follow the rules, and you know, keep in mind this is a more powerful, faster bike, and just be safe.